Hey, greetings everyone from our home to yours. I hope that this finds you safe and well. Welcome to another episode of us trying to figure out the things Jesus said, the stories that Jesus told, and the lessons that he taught. Our passage for today comes from Matthew chapter 12, verse 6. And it says, "But I tell you that something greater than the temple is here." So the context of this passage is that Jesus is walking through a field of grain. They're traveling for some reason on the Sabbath, and they're walking through a field of grain and they're hungry, so they grab some of the grain and they eat it. Can we just acknowledge that they must have been really hungry to do this? So some of the religious leaders of the day start chastising Jesus for him letting his disciples grab this food and eat it, thus breaking a Sabbath law. Jesus then gives them an example of when David broke the law by, having some of the bread in the temple. They should have understood because David did it. And then he gives them some examples of even in their times where there were some leniency on performing some of the duties during the Sabbath, like sacrificing. And then Jesus gives us three very powerful statements. And the first is our passage for today, where he says, "I tell you something greater than the temple is here." Years ago, I was at a denominational meeting. It was actually the national meeting, and I was eating with some friends and other staff members of the church that I served on staff with, when our superintendent walked through the lobby of the hotel we were staying at, and he saw us there having breakfast, and so he stopped and he greeted us. And as he walked up to us and as he was greeting each one of us in the party, his eyes kept looking at my chest. At first, I thought I must have had food that had, dropped from breakfast on my chest. And then I realized the shirt that I was wearing, and on the front it said, "Don't go to church." So I notice him, staring at this. So I turn around quickly and point to the back where it says, "Be the church." He was visibly relieved, the fact that there was a positive message on the back. So the irony of a district superintendent at a national level event sees one of his pastors wearing a shirt that says "Don't go to church." Jesus said something greater than the temple is here. And what he was saying is that he was here. Himself and the kingdom of God was there. And it's greater than the temple. He is greater than the temple. You see, Jesus is greater than any church, any monument, any ceremony, any creed, and even greater than our theologies. But we forget that sometimes, don't we? We think that going to church is what makes us a Christian, and that's the furthest from the truth. Going to church does not make us a Christian. It's he who is greater than the temple, than the church, that makes us a Christian. It's us following him. The church is not the end-all be-all. It's just a means to an end. It is not the end. Church can never be, and church attendance can never be, a substitute for Jesus. And there is nothing that can substitute for following Jesus. But as I've said before, church and going to church is much easier than following Jesus. Because when we follow Jesus, things happen. Lives change. And some of us don't want to change. Some of us like being where we're at and going to church to make ourselves feel better. So my challenge to you this week is, don't go to church. Or maybe just don't go to church, but be the church. But more importantly, be a true follower of Jesus. Grace and peace to you. God bless you.